for those that were not here in the last conference, let me tell you that I'm expecting from you participation, and I'm expecting responsibility. Okay, so in order to make this class interactive, I invite you to participate and to give your opinions, points of view about something, experience that you had, something like that. All right. And of course, we're having groups of discussions, so you can interact with your classmates, and you can also share your thoughts. So um, welcome again, and let's start. Today's topic is traditional versus modern education. Okay, and we're gonna focus on these two ways of teaching, right? And we're gonna learn the differences. We're gonna learn, which one are we gonna use? If we're gonna make a balance, if we're gonna use the modern, and we're gonna forget about traditional. So we're gonna be dealing with that today. Since we were working last week with teaching styles, in this presentation, we're going to focus on these two. And also, we are going to learn a little bit of learning styles, which is also important. So let's move. Now, we have this introduction. So during this week, we're going to study the characteristic of traditional and modern teaching. We will learn the differences, and we are going to reflect on the way you want to teach in the future by analyzing their most relevant advantages and disadvantages. So that means that during this session, we're going to be studying the traditional way and the modern style of teaching, and you're going to get your own reflection, okay? I'm not here to tell you how you're going to teach. I'm just here to show you, right? Two different opinions, two different points of view. And then at the end, you're going to create your own conclusions, okay? I can tell you whatever, but at the end, you are the one that is going to decide how to use the information, all right? That's going to be your job. All right, so here we have these three important aspects, right? The first one says, think about the important aspects of traditional and modern education. Probably you are familiar with the term traditional education or modern education, or probably not. So we're going to figure it out today. Now, what do you know about teaching styles? Now, this question take us to last class. Now, I would like to hear maybe three participations with related to this question, just to recall previous knowledge. So what do you know about teaching styles? Anybody? Yeah, only one, not two. Anybody?
Yes, teacher.
All right.
I think when we think about traditional, is that kind of teaching that there is like just the teacher is the important or the active person that is in the class. Is the only one that is giving the learning process or teaching and guiding to the student. It's giving just dictations, and the students are just writing what the teacher is teaching in the moment. And in the active role in that kind of teaching is the professor, and the passive one is the students.
Okay. Thank you very much, Will. That's very brave from you to participate. Thank you. Someone else?
Hello,
Yeah.
hello. So the question is about traditional and modern education or
Mm,
about the teaching
act-
styles.
Actually, I was referring to teaching styles, just to
So,
recall previous
so
knowledge.
Okay, so what I know about that is that we as teachers can teach in so many different ways. So last class and in the presentation in PowerPoint that you provide us, we learned some teaching styles, and one of them, which is like the target, and that you were talking about last class, is that teaching style in which the teacher blend all those activities so students learn according to their necessities, because we know that every person is different and thus they learn in a different way. So the teacher must and must try to find out what are the capabilities and the weakness, the strength of the students, and so adapt according that and based in that knowledge how to teach the student. For example, when I took the quiz, the result that I got is that I was that kind of teacher that teach by giving examples. And I dislike a little bit that, because in that teaching style, the teacher takes most of the participation of the class, and the students are just listening. And I don't really like that, but that's the teaching style that I got.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Um, in the last class, we were dealing with teaching styles. I don't know if you remember that we studied 5 teaching different styles, and you took a quiz and all that, and you were discussing, and you got 2 points for that. Do you remember what teaching styles were we studying in the last class? Anybody? Facilitator. Uh-huh. What else?
Collaborative
Okay.
style,
Okay. What else?
facilitator style,
Uh-huh.
um, let me think.
It's okay. Hey, somebody can help. Somebody can help. Come
The
on.
delegator style
Delegator. Okay.
Yes, the
and
delegator.
hybrid
Yes.
style.
Okay. Hybrid. Uh-huh. There was the facilitator as well. Okay. And the last one was the
Authority.
authority. The authority style. And the last one was the hybrid, which was the suitable method for English teachers. I don't know if you remember that we were studying that one because it involves extracurricular activities and things like that. So I mean, as according to the researchers, we as English teachers should use the hybrid uh, style, you know. However, as Jeffrey was saying, while we are getting experience, we learn how to adapt our lessons according to our students' needs, you know. And today we're gonna study a little bit of learning styles, and it has to do a lot with how people learn, you know, and then how we adequate our lessons to that part. So we're gonna be dealing with that. Right now, we will have a short discussion, okay, in small groups. You're going to answer these 2 questions. Question number 1, how would you define traditional education? And number 2, how would you define modern education? Okay? So, sorry. These are the 2 questions that we're going to be discussing. For the people that is new in this group, we are constantly making discussions, okay, in small groups. So we're gonna make group of 4 people. You're gonna receive an invitation right now, and I'm gonna mix the people. So take advantage of that and get to know your classmates. Okay. So don't be shy. Share your opinions, and don't feel like afraid of participating. You know, and talking. We are here for learning new things. You know, so don't worry. Like, just enjoy it. Okay. So in a minute, you're receiving this invitation right now, and then you discuss the two questions. Go on.
repetition and memorization. And when we talk
Yes.
about the modern learning, we are talking about to encourage the students to be more productive or be part of the class. And I don't know what else to say for
Yeah.
you.
Ruth, do you wanna talk
I think
first?
the traditional teaching style is more about, as Paul said, information that need in the class, something like that. It's like um, use this technology for facilitate information that you use in the class.
Exactly, to facilitate a learning process.
Modern
Exactly.
education.
Mhm.
Maybe the
Part. So that is pretty much like the difference between modern and the traditional education that the, so that's what I think. So who's the next one?
I'm the next one in this occasion. Okay,
All right.
what I want to say about the traditional approach or education is that, I mean, I think it's the one that involves, like all kind of techniques, strategies, but also the one that does not attend diversity. As we already know, we live in a world where diversity is one of the most complex facts that and issues that we have, people that come from very different backgrounds. So I think that in order to attend diversity, we have to use a modern approach, the one
facilitate the process through the process, helps the students in order to get that classroom goals.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's see what can say the another person that is here. I don't know. There's not the name.
You,
Hello?
you mean Mr. Torres?
No. There's somebody
I'm the
else.
other one, Jeffrey. I'm the
Hi,
other
hi,
one.
hi. Okay, go ahead, buddy.
No, just a little brief of what you said before. Well, the traditional education, as you said, is where the teacher is centered and not the student.
Yeah.
Besides the modern education, uh, the learner is centered, right? And when it's said traditional, we have a passive learning, and in a modern education, we have an active learning, and also I don't know, is the discipline, specific knowledge of traditional education uh, is kind of like in comparison with the modern education, they has an specific, and these make genetic skills with the students,
Yeah.
and also I don't know, it has, the modern education has a multi-way transfer, you know, besides the traditional education.
Okay, so we're back. All right, we're just getting everybody. Okay, well. All right. Well, let's continue, guys. Thanks for participating in the chat rooms. Thanks for your pretty interesting opinions. I was listening to some of the groups, and your concepts or your opinions were very, very accurate. I was paying attention to some of the opinions, and they have a clear idea about traditional methods and modern, methods of teaching, right? Um, let's go to this part. Look at these two pictures, right? What can you see in the pictures? Like just by taking a look, what can you say about these two different scenarios? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What can I say about the first picture is that almost every student is bored about the class that they are receiving. So it means that probably the method or technique that that teacher is using, it is really, really boring for the students. That's what I think.
Okay. What else? Someone else? Anybody else?
Okay, what I can say about the second one is that what I see is that the class is really funny and the students are learning by practicing, because that maybe the method or the technique that the teacher is using, it's really effective, and the students are just enjoying the class.
Okay. Thank you very much, Esther. Well, in my opinion, these are the two parts, right? The traditional method, which is something that some of us experience at school. You see, the little kids looks bored. They're taking notes. They're not enjoying the class. Hmm? Why is that? Look at the seating arrangement in the first place, right? The seating arrangement tells you a lot about traditional education. Another thing is that in the other image, well, at first sight, I can see a lot of realia. Do you know what is realia? Yeah?
Not really.
Well, realia are those objects that you use that are real, in order to teach. For example, if in an English class I am teaching what? I am teaching, I'm teaching vocabulary about fruits and vegetables in English, okay? So then I take a basket from home and I bring real fruits, and I bring real vegetables and I show to students, right? Okay, this is an apple, but I show the students the apple. You know what I'm saying? So that way, or those objects are realia. So anyway, in this case, the teacher is being part of the process. And look at the attitude. Students are enjoying the lesson because they are participating, right? The teacher is not just there telling students what to do. The teacher is also participating. Of course, you're going to tell me that the ages are different. Yes, that's true. But I can change the scenario. If I put some other creative tools or other creative a creative activity. I mean, you don't need thousands of resources in order to be a great teacher. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't have resources, you can think about activities, about kinesthetic activities that could work in order to uh, get or engage your students in your lessons, you know? And that is part of our jobs, how to be creative with the resources that we have. Because like if you work in a public school, I mean, you probably won't have all the resources available, you know? Now, if you work in higher education, in the other hand, well, you probably have some resources that you can use. However, your teaching style is going to be limited by the space because sometimes you have 40 or 60 students in one classroom. So the seating arrangement, I mean, there's not much you can do with that. So you have to use creative ways in order to avoid the first picture. You know, when you see that image, then something goes wrong. Okay. So let's move. Now here we have a concept. Traditional teaching, right, is an act. Here's a mistake. Sorry about that. It's an act of imparting instructions to the learner in the classroom situation. Okay. Now then we have modern concept, right? Well, is to cause the pupil to learn and acquire the desired knowledge, skill, and also desirable ways of living in society. So, traditional method, right, is focusing on the teacher. The teacher is the center of the class. Modern concept, well, the teacher is just a guide, you know, for students. And teacher, they worry about knowledge and about developing skills in students, okay? And they focus on meaningful learning, okay? And then I would like to mention that the word meaningful should be something that you have to keep in your mind and in your heart, okay? If something is not meaningful, then don't teach it, okay? Remember that. So, especially when you're teaching adults, you know, when you're teaching adults, like adults are gonna ask, well, why I'm learning, why am I learning this, right? When am I gonna use it? So they're gonna ask those questions. So um, if an activity does not have a purpose, then it's a waste of time activity. Okay, please keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. Okay, if your activity does not have a purpose, then it's a waste time activity, okay? So let's move. Here we have some theory about traditional teaching. Let me see. Brenda, would you mind helping me with the reading, please?
Okay. It says traditional teaching. The back the back-to-back says traditional education method, also known as conventional education, is still widely used in schools. The old-fashioned way of teaching was all about recitation. For example, students will sit in silence while one student after another will take it in turns to recite the lesson until each one had been called upon.
Thank you. So look at this traditional ways of seating arrangement. Like look all of them. They look like soldiers, right? They look like if they are working in a factory already. So these traditional methods sometimes kills imaginations, kills creativity. You know, conventional schools, you know, they usually uh, what they usually ask, well, asked, no anymore, I guess, and I hope, students for reading, you know, the lesson one by one. Can you imagine how boring the situation was? Like, can you even imagine that if I ask you to read every part of the lesson one by one? So we're gonna, I mean, it would take forever, right? Now, and why is it important? I mean, if you give me one reason why is it important, then I would believe you that that was good. However, in my opinion, this traditional method failed because of this. I mean, failed because students were just memorizing stuff, learning stuff, by heart, and then in a couple years they forgot about that. So then if they forget that, then it's not meaningful. So if you teach a student something important, they won't forget that, you know? Like if you give your students a lesson, they won't forget it. You know what I mean? It's not just memorizing stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that memorizing it's completely negative, because in our area of study, English, it is necessary to memorize some things. I mean, when we are learning or when we are dealing with simple past verbs, I mean, you're not gonna let me lie, but you memorize them. I mean, there's no other way. So now there's some aspects about memorizing that are good, but memorizing everything. Imagine that I assign a homework, and the homework is about memorizing all the information in this presentation. What would you say? What would you say to me if I ask you that? Hmm.
It's too much information.
Boring.
Yeah, I'm boring too.
Yeah.
Okay, boring, too much information. What else? And imagine that I ask you for doing that, and also I am checking every comma, every period. What would you say to me? Probably you would hate me, right? Probably you would be telling este viejo, blah blah blah, right? Stuff like that, right? And it's understandable. Um, that that kind of method or methodology kills creativity and imagination. So let's move. Questions so far? Questions so far? Or any opinion or participation?
No, teacher.
No, we're good. Okay, if you want to participate but you don't want to use the microphone, you can write in the chat, okay? Remember that. You can use the chat. I mean, I understand that sometimes at home there are noises and all that. So if that's the case, then use the chat, okay? If you want. So I mean, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. So let's continue. Now I'm gonna read this part. It says traditional teaching. The teacher would listen to each student's recitation, and they were expected to study and memorize the assignments. That sounds crazy. So at the end of the module, a written test or oral examination would be conducted. This process was called an assignment study recitation test. Now, if you ask me, I learned that way, okay? When I was in school, like 1,000 years ago, no, I'm not lying. I mean, it's like, what's like a couple years ago, like, maybe 20. Anyways, when I was in school, I remember that I had very traditional teachers. And the exams were like this, okay? They gave you a questionnaire of 20 questions. So you had to learn the questions and learn the answers. And then, after that, the exam, okay? Then you had the exam. So if you memorize everything, then you have 10, okay? So the idea of learning in those times was memorizing stuff. So probably you're gonna ask me about the casos del factoreo. I don't even remember that. Plus, I am here with English, not with math. So I'm still waiting to use all of that information that I memorized. However, if I see the positive side of that, I train my brain. I train my brain. So, but those were some methodology that all teachers used to use, and some of our parents, they think that this method it's better than the one that we have now. They think that students are not learning, but times are changing, and nowadays students need to develop more skills. solving problem skills. They have to think critically. They have to solve problems, you know. And times are changing, and we have to understand that education needs to change as well. And I'm pretty sure that you guys, you're gonna change education in the future. I have hope. So let's continue. So I'm gonna ask a volunteer here. How about Gigi? Okay, Gigi. Giselle?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Traditional teaching. The way in which traditional methods were taught ensured that the students were, how say this word?
Which one? In short,
Uh,
taught?
students were, no.
Taught?
Regarded, I think.
Yes,
Oh, rewarded.
recorded. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
For for their sports, use class period efficiently and exercise clear rules to manage students' behavior.
Thank you very much, Gigi. So, the way in which traditional methods were taught ensured that students were rewarded for their effort. Now, use class periods efficiently and exercise clear rules to manage the students' behavior. Now, in these time, like in those times, I'm sorry, mm, teachers were kind of rude with the behavior problems, you know, misbehavior problems. mm, they could punish you physically, emotionally, and they were the authority. And if you told your parents, then you would get double punishment because your parents used to punish you at home because for them, the teacher was always right. So that was one of the things or characteristic of this method. Um, Teachers used to reward students for their effort. They used to tell them, okay, if you do this, I'm gonna give you an extra point or something. You know, they used to reward students. You know, or even they used to praise them or compare them. You know, they used to say, ah, you gotta be like Marco, right? Marco Tulio is a great student. You should be like him. They used to compare students. Nowadays, with this Lepinas law, you know that in public schools or private schools, teachers cannot do that. Okay, you cannot um, abuse. You know, you cannot abuse of your power. You cannot tell a student or compare a student because you're gonna offend him. Remember that we're all different. We're all different, and we have different skills, different abilities, different ways of learning, and that's why you're studying this. You know, when you stand up in front of a group of students, please, you need to have some empathy. You know, you need to put yourself in other one's shoes and think about the problems they have. You know, Marco was saying in one of the discussions about the backgrounds. I mean, uh, you know, knowing your students is essential. You know, thinking about their backgrounds. I mean, where they come from, their belief, taking all those aspects into consideration would be awesome. Your students would appreciate that, you know. And I'm pretty sure that you're gonna take those words into account, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that you're gonna be great teachers because in those days, teachers could punish you physically as well. I remember that I was in sixth grade and I got into a fight in the classroom. It wasn't my fault, if you ask me. This guy called Miguel hit me, you know, in my chest, what we commonly know as pechada. So he hit me, and then I stood up and I kicked him back, and he fell down. My teacher, he was very traditional. His name was Francisco. So he had a rope, you know, a real rope, and a wet rope, by the way, and he caught us and then he hit us, you know, both of us, and then, well, nobody said anything in front of the class, and that was perfectly normal in those times. But in modern education, you know that you can't do that. You know that there are other ways of dealing with behavior or with misbehavior problems, and you know, you have to deal with that. You know, you can't do that now. It's not the appropriate way. All right. We're going to stop right now because we have less than a minute. So I'm going to ask you to join the video conference again, please. So I'll see you in 30 seconds.